Welcome back to the Blister and Muck podcast. I'm Jenny Mason, your host and the creator of the Blister and Muck series. Is Muck leaving the show to spend more time with his family? Seems pretty inconsiderate. I don't mean to hyperbolize, overstate, or exaggerate the situation, but last week, Muck learned his family is, in fact, alive. If he is reunited with them, then his Pirates Forever partnership with Blister will disintegrate. Naturally, as a one-for-one and none-for-all Tuftail, Blister isn't likely to give a whisker, except that, well, Muck is his apprentice and owes Blister a portion of all his food filchings. That fact might make Blister desperate to prevent Muck from going his separate way. Here's what I wonder. If Muck leaves the conglomerate but visits off and on, does that mean he's migratory? Here's another good question. Did you know that in 1830, the entirety of railroad tracks in the United States barely stretched across 30 miles? By 1916, the U.S. had staked down over 250,000 miles of track, enough to reach the moon. Unlike last week, when my producers denied me the opportunity to share dazzling train facts, I am now free to dispense as much historical trivia as I like. You see, as of this recording, my producers find themselves otherwise occupied. Have you ever ridden on a train? Many years ago, when I lived in Ireland, I took a train from my home on the seashore to my school in the city. I have also shot across Germany on a bullet train. In the days before smartphones, I regularly rode New Mexico's double-decker train from Albuquerque to Santa Fe. And in the Colorado town where I live now, old steam trains shuttle tourists up, up, up to the cloud-tickling mountains. While the chuffing iron horses arrive at depots in historic mining towns, their actual destination is some 200 years into the past, when trains first emerged. All the whens, hows, and whos contributing to the invention of trains are too numerous to cover here before my producers escape, in the time we have. If you're eager to dive down this historical rabbit hole, then be sure to stop by blisterandmuck.com, where I always link the curious to more information. Suffice it to say, trains emerged between the 1780s and the 1820s. Even to this day, even if you've never ridden a train, they are still as pivotal an invention in humankind's history as the wheel, the nail and needle, or the saddle and stirrup. These creations fundamentally changed daily life, as well as the trajectory of human progress. Trains represent the first time in human history when a machine conveyed people over land. Prior to that, people traveled on the backs of animals, or on a wagon pulled by an animal, or on their own feet. All the old modes of transport were pretty pokey, too. By contrast, trains enabled us to move at the speed of cannonballs. And once we shifted from marching or trotting to cannonballing across the map, we humans forever changed. Our old ways of understanding time and distance collapsed. Faraway places were suddenly nearby. A journey that once required months condensed into days or hours. Eventually became instantly. Soon evolved into now. And these days, with rockets that sling us into outer space within just a few minutes, now has shrunk into next. What's next? What's next? What's next? Besides shrinking time, trains also standardized time. That is to say, before trains, each city and each town had its own local time. Having hundreds or thousands of unique local times is all fine and dandy, until people start coordinating their schedules to catch a train. To solve the matter, people standardized time. Essentially, we designated one clock in one place to be the official time for the whole planet, and then we designated time zones radiating out from that one clock. After that, everyone could reliably synchronize their clocks and organize their lives around the train schedules. I guess you could say that once people invented the train, it was just a motor of time. Trains changed physical landscapes too. Train tracks work best on flat surfaces, so engineers scraped down hills or blasted holes through mountains to make way for tracks. Trains also impacted our language. For example, when railway workers in France went on strike, they often hindered train travel by cutting the metal bracket or sabot that holds the train tracks in place. This destruction was known as sabotage. And even if you've never ridden a train, you've likely had to backtrack, sidetrack, go off track, get on the right track, go off the rails, or derailed your one-track mind. Maybe you're living on the wrong side of the tracks, where everything has fallen by the wayside, so you let off some steam on some third-rail issues. Or you live full steam ahead, riding the gravy train non-stop on a whistle-stop tour with all the bells and whistles. Yeah, that's the ticket. Just chugging along until it's bumper to bumper, and then you're not on board with this. Talk about a train wreck. It's the end of the line. But perhaps there's light at the end of the tunnel. Now, where was I going with this? I've lost my train of thought. Oh, yes. Traveling by train at cannonball speeds forever changed people. The only other thing in the world I can think of that impacts and alters us as much as trains is friendship. Not casual, hey, I know and see you at school every day friendship. I'm talking capital BFF friendship. Perhaps you've noticed that whenever you don't have a best friend, life feels as slow and plodding as an ox and cart. Once you have a new friend, everything speeds up. The two of you are cannonballs, always aimed at having fun. And because you have a friend, faraway impossibilities come within possible reach. You and your friend even develop your own language, full of inside jokes and secret code words. Oh, and forget about waiting. You can't wait to see your friend again, so time bends until eventually is instantly, and soon is now, and now is next. What shall we do next? So, what if something came along threatening to take away or derail that friendship? How might you react? What might you do to preserve that friendship? Would you go so far as sabotage? Episode 12: Trial by Fire. Madame Petruska stood tall and dry under an umbrella woven from wisteria leaves. Spindle hopped up and down on her shoulder.
Look at you both. Your bones are being soaked. What are you thinking you are? Otters?
What are you doing here?
Blister spluttered as the spider ran circles around his feet.
I am coming to find you.
But how?
How else? Spider is bringing me note to go see pigeons. I am going to pigeons. Next, I am being told that Muck is survivor of this fire. That you both are being here to solve a mystery that is already solved.
You said my family is alive.
They are, and they are living in Europe. I sent a telegram to my connections there before I am coming here to find you.
You did what?
Blister fumed.
They are knowing where to find your family. Soon they will be knowing you are alive, and they will be so happy.
Petruska snared Blister and Muck in a tissue-crushing hug. As she lifted them off the ground, Spindle skipped exuberant circles atop all three heads. Released from the muscular vice grip, Blister blurted out,
But you can't. I mean, they can't. Or, that is to say...
How could you possibly possess this information?
Muck cut in. Your family is being named Furbanks, yes?
Yes, indeed.
The Furbanks came to me for help. They escaped the fire and were being in Blackrust with nothing. They needed passage to Europe, where they were having cousins. I asked how many would be traveling. They said 6. I counted 5, at which point they lowered their heads and were confirming only 5. But I knew what they meant. I just wish I'd known you were the missing Furbanks when I was meeting you. She clapped Muck on the back, and a puff of water spritzed off.
Oh, Blister, isn't this the most staggering statement? The most nutritive news?
Muck fastened Blister in an eye-bulging embrace.
Sure, great.
Each word was a pebble in Blister's mouth.
Your family survived the fire you started. Yay.
Don't be silly, Putreska admonished. He was having nothing to do with the fire. The baker started it.
Monsieur Francois Villette?
Asked Blister. Madame Putreska nodded. On accident, of course.
I appreciate your clement conquest to cheer me up, Madame Putreska, Muck interrupted. But I am the conflagration's culprit. I knocked over a candle in the pantry, which ignited a linen napkin, which ignited who knows what else.
You will be taking me to this pantry now. I will show you proof. Madame Putreska did not wait to be shown before marching into the gaping chasms of the mansion. The kitchen appeared unburned, although fractions of its walls and ceiling were missing. Coils of bramble stretched through these fissures. Rain also ticked through the gaps and plonked the copper kettles, pots, and pans. Madame Putreska shoved the pantry door fully open on its squeaky hinges. The room was the only dry place in the entire estate. The shelves were dusty and mostly barren, undoubtedly pilfered by both people and animals in the days and weeks following the fire. On the floor, however, they found a portly ceramic jar, scraped clean of its honey. Next to it was a busted candle resting atop the remaining half of a scorched linen napkin. Now you are seeing proof, Putreska said. The fire was never being started from this napkin. And good thing it didn't, or you would have been burnt to a crisp. Muck was flabbergasted. But, according to my sources, it was an electrical fire. Witnesses said they first saw flames in the library, which is why the fire was spreading so fast. An electrician later traced the original spark back to the kitchen. Evidently, Monsieur Fiette's egg beater was overloading an outlet.
Oh my!
Muck pulled his ears down.
I can vindicate that verse of the story. I was passing by when it sparked.
Well, that spark ignited the wires, which burned in their casings all the way up to the library. By then, they were so hot they burned out of their casings and right through the walls.
Of all the incredible instances.
Dung in the gutter,
Blister monotoned as he shook the rain off his fur.
Mystery solved. You can stop torturing yourself. Let's go home now. Come on, Spindle.
Blister patted his side, and the spider obediently followed him out of the pantry. With Spindle hunkered as a wet, miserable bead on his head, the rat sustained a considerable distance ahead of Muck and Madame Putreska, all the way back to the village. Putreska kindly shared her umbrella with Muck. Because his legs were shorter than hers, he had to jog to keep up.
When might I expect news from Europe?
He asked. Putreska replied, That is depending on where your family is settled and how fast the continental liberators can be finding them. Maybe 1 week, maybe 2.
Muck could have floated the rest of the way to the village on the helium of hope he felt. I feel as though I may wantonly weep. Putreska wrapped an arm around him and squeezed.
There will be plenty of time for tears later. For now, just be rejoicing.
They followed Blister's tracks in the mud. I don't suppose you have any uplifting updates on Horchata or the other speechless rats?
I had operatives take her to the physicians. I am hoping that soon we will get enough words out of Ooze and Horchata to find Dr. Van Sinkfreud. And when we do, I'm going to crack him.
Putreska chopped one paw through the air with a threatening whoosh. By the time they caught a train bound for Blackrust, darkness was the only thing falling from the sky. Nonetheless, Blister stared out the caboose window as if he could see an entire kingdom of sights and wonders. Muck curled up with Spindle, and the two snored louder than the boxcars rattled. Putreska observed Blister in silence for a long time. Finally, she said,
It was being a good day. You're being happy for your friend?
I am exceedingly elated for my apprentice.
Blister's smile resembled a sneer.
I see.
Putreska nodded.
Well, this will exceed your elations even more. You two are staying with me.
Thanks, but I have a bed.
Blister, I saw what those wharf rats did to your place. You can't be staying there.
All it needs is a little cleaning.
You are knowing they will come back.
Madame Putreska boomed with angry authority. After a pause, she began again in a softer tone.
The wharf rats will be coming back over and over to be searching for food. Your cathedral is not a safe place to be, okay? Okay.
Fine, Blister exhaled. I'll stay in the caverns.
His tail tapped an angry Morse code that Madame Putreska did not need to decode to understand. I have to say, Blister's behavior is wildly unattractive. His sullenness really detracts from what ought to be a joyous occasion. I mean, Madame Putreska was able to exonerate Muck. We should celebrate the fact that he's not a murderer after all. Tune in next week to find out how Blister tampers with Muck's plans to rejoin the Furbanks family. In the meantime, stop by blisterandmuck.com and use the contact form to tell me what you think will happen next. Or share your favorite jokes, and I'll give you a shout-out when I share them on the show. You'll never miss an episode when you click the orange subscribe button at blisterandmuck.com. This show is 100% listener-supported, which is why your listening is never interrupted with a commercial break. I hope you'll consider supporting the show by making a donation or selecting an awesome item from the Blister and Muck gift shop. A portion of every purchase is applied to the costs of web hosting, music, and sound effects essential to every episode. Plus, I express my gratification to all my supporters by including a secret surprise with your order. Please keep in mind that even before the crippling global pandemic spurred this podcast to life, as my way of supporting parents, kids, and teachers screen-fatigued with too much Zoom, there were millions of children home alone and missing out on the magic that is hearing a story read aloud. No matter how nimbly we recover from the pandemic, there will still be too many children lacking that experience. This podcast fills that gap. When you tap support the show at blisterandmuck.com, you support literacy for young people. You help them build strong critical thinking skills as well as a more robust imagination. Huge thanks to all my supporters. Your generosity has brought 31 episodes to life. Special thanks to Roland Rudzitis for serving up the Blister and Muck theme song. Dee Yan Key performed the symphonic score in the introduction. Additional music by Kevin MacLeod. I Do Music's Made It Rain. Mike Koenig brought the crushing hugs, splats, and thunder. Daniel Simeon chuffed the train. Other sounds are public domain. I am eternally grateful to my family, friends, and fans. One for one, and all for you.